Hey, Scott Hilton, Scott Talks. Going to talk to you about podcast. Got the OVERCAST app, which is available for iPhones. And I know Apple's got its own podcast app, and it's a good little app. It's got a lot of stuff here. This is Apple's podcast app. And we'll go over it real quick. But I love OVERCAST. It's got ways to set up playlists. It keeps track of my stuff. I can pick how many episodes I want. Do I want to download just one episode at a time, listen to it, and then next week I'll listen to the next one and the next one and the next one? Or do I want to get 10 episodes at a time, or 5 episodes, or all the episodes? That'll take up some space on your phone. But this is Apple. And they start with like Up Next. This is stuff I've listened to in the past on the Apple podcast long ago, before I discovered OVERCAST. Just lots of stuff, like listening to it. LeVar Burton reads. He reads a book, short stories you might like. Here's some stuff you might like. That's nice. Popular shows. Here's some of the popular shows Apple's saying there is. Stuff you should know is very popular. I know that one. There's Joe Rogan. Of course, he's popular. WTF, I've listened to that before. Been a long time. Fresh Air from NPR Radio. Tons of NPR Radio stuff. If you ever listen to NPR and say, I haven't got time for This American Life, but get a podcast version of it. There it is. This American Life. And download it and listen on demand when you feel like it. Halfway to work, and then the rest of it on halfway on the way back. Podcasts are great for that. Some top shows that I've got, they consider top shows that I downloaded before. Rick Steves, Mike Rowe. I like Mike Rowe. I haven't listened to him in a long time. Apple TV Plus, if you have an Apple TV device, many of these are based on some of their recommendations. Foundation podcast based on the show. Some different things. Weekly series that I've never heard of before. Easy Money, Undercover Night. Probably stuff on Apple TV Plus I just haven't seen. Here's some news. The Daily is very popular for news. I think it's about an hour long. Up First, popular. A lot of different things you can see. Roundup. All righty. CNET Top 5, I like that. Apple News is interesting. I like that. I hate it when I get it on my phone because I don't have Apple News, and it takes up a lot of space, and it takes up my time, and I'm like deleting. As soon as I see the email, I'm like, no, don't want to read the Apple News, because it'll say, if I click on a story, it'll go, yes, you'd like to get Apple News then, right? And I'm like, no. Click, gone. So, but yeah, they got Up First, they got daily headlines, different things. You want your daily news, deep dives and different things, different topics. Business, tech, political news, different things like that. That's what they got on Apple. Climate, news, narratives, channels. They have channels. You can listen to ABC News. There's 7 shows on NBC News that you can get. That's good to have, right? Take it on the go with you. Listen at lunch, listen on the way to work, listen when you're out and about, or just chilling at the house, cleaning up. Put some headphones on. I've got bone conducting headphones I like. The earbuds fall out of my ears and they hurt my ear eventually. And the big headphones, I like to see what's going on in the world. They have some different categories, explore categories like climate, stuff going on in the climate, society, comedy. There's some comedy. Joe Rogan gets classes there, and SmartLess is funny. They get tons of good interviews on SmartLess. Conan O'Brien, of course, is going to be funny. True crime is like the big stuff. Steve Martin would often talk about walking for miles, listening to True Crime podcast to get his exercise in, and just listen for hours. And his partner, Marty, he's like, hey, I don't know nothing about that stuff. And of course, they're doing Only Murderers in the Building, that podcast show. That's on Hulu, the funny show. The two of them that play people, podcasters that are solving crimes in their building. And Steve Martin came up with the idea of it years ago with three old guys stuck in a building, couldn't get out. So they had to solve the crimes in the building. And the producer that loved the idea, wanted to produce the show, was like, hey, how about you doing it? And he's like, I'll produce, but I don't want to do it. And he was like, come on, why don't you do it? And he said, I'll tell you what, if I can get Marty to do it, I'll do it. So Marty said yes. Steve committed. And then the producer was like, I want to get a young girl in for the third person, because three old guys is funny, but the dynamics of having a young girl and the old guys and the way they see the world different and everything would be really funny. And they incorporated a lot of it in the real world. Selena Gomez says Steve Martin used to sign his emails. And she's like, Steve, you don't have to sign emails. He said, well, I wrote a letter, so I always sign it. And she's like, oh, no, you don't have to sign them. It's automatic. And the producers thought that was so funny, they added it to the show. It's in one of the first seasons. So we're looking at apples. Well, let's look at Overcast. This is Overcast. We've got stuff I've listened to recently. We've got something to play, and this is on an iPad. It's different on the phone. On the phone, it's just, more controls. It's two different worlds, this world or that world. But these are some of the podcasts. I have 500 megabytes of space, or gigabytes, whatever, space on the phone, not the minimum 200. And I'm looking at it, I've used 300 because I've got all these podcasts on here that if I get the itch to listen to one, I'll listen to it. If I don't, some of these have been recommended by people, or I hear about them on YouTube or another podcast, and I've never listened to them, never. But I'll put on there, I'll download one or two, and I'll get to it one day. So I've got tons of them. None of them downloaded on this, I hope. I have to just delete the app to get rid of them, to save up some space, because it's trying to download all this stuff, and I had to stop it. But I've got a lot of stuff. And then I got playlists I made. It's neat with the playlist. I got news for every day of the week. And by doing this A space 0 Sunday, and then A1, it keeps it in order. Because if I put Sunday first, it would alphabetically throw it to the S's. So the A keeps my playlist in order. I can go Sunday. There's my quick news. All these are quick news. Ocala news, because I live in Ocala, Florida. And she's a realtor, but she'll talk to people locally. And occasionally that's just a quick listen and not listening to that. But sometimes it's interesting. About 30-minute picks that I kind of figure will be about 30 minutes long if I get the itch for that. And I listen at 1.5 speed, so it's going to be less than 30 minutes for me. I know my wife hates the 1.5 speed. Anytime Nikki, we got the cat down here. He wants attention. Don't you, Nikki? Good boy. But it bangs it out quicker. Same with audiobooks, bangs it out quicker. Then if I'm on the road, I can listen to music. I listen to podcasts. I don't do the audiobooks because you get focused in on the story. And you got to, when I'm riding my bike or driving, I kind of like to stay focused on what's going on, unless I'm like on the super highway, just going straight for miles and hours or whatever. Then I listen to podcast or a book maybe. But books are usually more quiet time listening. And my wife has this garden, and she wants me to water the flowers and pull the weeds. And I'm like, okay. And I listen to my book. And then I bang out my books that way for Audible. I told my daughter what I want for my birthday. How about some Audible credits? And she's like, really? That's a good gift, because she's had audiobooks and different things and loves to read. And my wife loves to read too. And she's like, well, why didn't I think of that? And I was like, yeah, you just wait for the next Apple event. It's coming up September 9th. I get everything on that. How about that? And she's like, no, you're not getting all that stuff. So these are my 30-minute picks. They last about 30 minutes, and if something strikes me is cool, I can listen to it. Conan O'Brien, my Science Friday, technically it's my Friday playlist. You go from these three little dots. Playlist settings, because you create a playlist. You can pick colors, the icon. Newest to oldest is the best way to go. You can have newest to oldest by podcast. You can have oldest to newest by podcast, or just newest to oldest. I like newest to oldest. And that way, and then you can pick podcasts. These are included podcasts, 24. So you got all your podcasts, you just check it, pick, and that's in your playlist. Just be careful, only selected podcast, all matching episodes. Or you can do all podcasts and excluding this, and this. So if you only have a couple podcasts, but you don't want to listen to, you got 5 podcasts, but you only want to listen to 3, you could exclude. But if you have 20 podcasts, you have to hit all podcasts and switch it to only selected and hand pick the ones you want from all that list. Just give it a little dot and pick what you want. Where all mine go? Included podcast. Oh, these are all included. Yeah. I always get it backwards. Only selected podcast. Included all, no. And then you see excluded. So you can exclude all matching episodes. Exclude, only selected. All bum. And we'll pick these 3 included. And there they are. From newest to oldest, September 4th, all the way down to August 21st. So I almost always go with keeping them mixed up, not all the podcasts stacked, because you can have some old crap in there. You don't want old crap. So now that I've ruined that one, I did ruin it. I'll fix it later. Mondays, I like.
When did Making Plans get big?
Oops, don't want any copyright problems. That was a commercial, I think, anyway. Cool Stuff Ride Home. 17 minutes, 23 minutes, 23 seconds. It's a good little listen for me. My CNN Fox News, which does not include CNN anymore because they pulled out of this little Overcast thing. That's fine. These are all short little podcasts. I got 5 minutes. I've got 11 minutes on 5 things. And I got 2 of them. Oh, one's old. See, you just slide it over. Look, see? Slide it over. Trash. It's gone. Find an old one in there, and it'll stay. Even if you've picked 3 or 4 episodes, it'll stay because you started it. Even if you start it, like on streaming services, you start and it goes to the next episode, and you don't have a next episode, so they pick a show for you. And you're like, I'm not watching this. When did this come in as something I might want to watch next? You're like, because it started for a couple seconds. And these guys, you find some old ones. Here's a July breaking news. You just get rid of it because you realize, it must have started briefly and you stopped and got out off the bike or stopped doing what you were doing and never got around to it or hit another playlist. Tuesday, Take Me Ride Home. Another commercial. Tech Brew Ride Home. And it's from the same company that did the other one. And I'll listen to that. It's 18 minutes long. And then go to music or another podcast or possibly the audiobook if I'm in the mood. This is called my NPR BBC. But I've only got NPR because BBC discontinued on this. We'd have to go look for it again. Sometimes they come back and you can re-click them and get it back again. And it's just, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and it adds up to about 30 minutes and you get some news. That's the way I like to do it. A7 Wednesday. Star Talk Radio. Love Star Talk Radio. Listen to it. It's one of the few things I'll listen to on the ride to the store or wherever I'm going and on the ride back. And I'll put in about 4 to 9, 10 miles at the most. And on the way back, maybe not on Wednesday, but sometimes, but usually just a store trip, be 3, 4 miles, something like that, 5, 6. Wherever I'm riding around. And I'll listen to Star Talk most of the time. You get too close to traffic, you can't hear because of their bone conducting, their open ear, which is good because you can hear people coming, like scooters and golf carts and crazy e-bike people. And just also, and watching the traffic, you got to watch out for traffic if you cross an intersection. I like the jaywalk technique. Take the bike like halfway down the sidewalk. 'Cause yeah, I can ride on the sidewalk in Florida. If you can't, you call it like you see it. I mean, if it's dangerous to be on the road, get on the sidewalk, and then, if anyone says anything, say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." And you get off the damn sidewalk if people are walking, or you're about to scare somebody. If you're trying to zip by them and hit the bell on your left, you want them. What world was that? So, if you're on a sidewalk on a bike, and if you're walking, if you're walking on a multi-purpose path, I usually walk facing traffic because those golf carts are coming in America, they're in the right lane, like they're driving. And I want to see them coming. I don't want them sneaking up behind me or scooters coming up behind me. I want to see. So I walk that way. But if I'm on a sidewalk, I'll lean to the right lane and walk that way. And if someone passes me, hopefully they'll zip around and ring their bell. If they're cheating, because I've seen it. I've seen golf carts on sidewalks in Ocala, Florida. Oh well. I love Star Talk. Neil deGrasse Tyson, usually Chuck Nice is his co-host. He always has a comedian, and he's the science guy. And sometimes they'll have other science people on, and they'll talk about different subjects about the universe and how things work. And the comedians are always there to throw in something to give you a good laugh. This is my Apple News and different things, short podcast for Wednesday. Clockwise, I love Clockwise. That one I love. It's usually 30 minutes long, 4 hosts, 4 tech subjects, not always on Apple, but a lot of Apple stuff. But they'll talk like, what calendar app are you using? And then the 4 different hosts from different varieties of tech will talk about, maybe I subscribe to Fantastical because it's really worth it to me. And you're like, I don't use the Apple calendar app. And you're like, really? Why not? And then they tell why. And then the other one goes, well, I use this and I use that. And, and you're like, you learn a lot about it, different stuff. So Clockwise, I love. It's very informative. And this is my Florida Beyond the News, because they have a story at Florida News, and I could catch what's going on in Florida because I'm in Florida, plus some other couple short news stories. Friday is my throwback to NPR, Science Friday. I figured Science Friday, and I found Science Quickly. So between the two of them, I'll listen to that on the ride, and if it's boring, I can skip it to the next one and go to the next podcast, and then I can hit another podcast or hit music on Spotify or Pandora. I made a playlist on Pandora, Scott Superstation, and I like it. It's made of like 50 different artists. It's neat. So it does have commercials, but it's okay because they're artists I like or want to listen to or don't mind listening to. And since there's the radio stations of all those artists, you get other artists that are like them. So it's mixed up with anything you just want to listen to and think, oh yeah, well, I wouldn't mind listening to a song by that or by that or by that. Even guilty pleasures. You remember Steve Jobs introduced the new iPhone, I think. He had to show off iTunes, and a Dean Martin song popped up. And he was like, okay, I didn't want you guys to know I listened to Dean Martin. And it's stuff like that. You got stuff in there that people would go, what you listen to? Oh, it picked the song for me. It's not my fault. Yeah. But yeah, Scott's Superstation. Look for that on Pandora. See if you can find it. It's probably got I think it's got a dash Scott Superstation. Something like that. Look for that. So for Science Friday, my AP News, Associated Press is great. They constantly renew those little stories. And they're like 1 minute and 43 seconds, 1 minute, 58 seconds, 1 minute, 39 seconds. Just quick little news clips. It's great to listen to, get different stories, and boom, 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 you're done. iOS Today drops usually on Thursday afternoon late or Friday, but I put it on my Saturday list. It's my Saturday play. And it's iOS, which means Apple. Apple iOS for iPads, watches, tablets, Apple TV, phones, all that good stuff. The headphone things that no one's buying. Hopefully the Apple event will update that. And that, I've heard they're just too heavy and they're too bulky. And you got to be able to see, if you got kids or pets, you got to be able to see what's going on pretty good. And they can block out a little bit of your vision. And, people just are like, I don't know. So iOS Today. Love it. And Micah Sargent is a host on both iOS Today and Clockwise. And he does a good job. And creating the playlists, 14, I just put Fox News. And that's my Saturday news variety. Is Fox even still? Yeah, Fox is still here. 4 minutes and 5 minute long news clips. I got 2 loaded. Okay, A15, This American Life. I got 1 episode there, but I think on the phone I might have more. No, I probably don't. An hour long, probably don't. Might have a few more so I can hand pick what I want to listen to. Mike Rowe, I like Mike Rowe. He's got some different people he talks about, different things. Conan's always, I look at all those Conans. I do about 10 of his and look for somebody, a celebrity or someone I recognize and go, oh, I'd like to hear what they have to say. And that's how I pick it. SmartLess does the same thing. Great, funny stories from different people. They did James Gunn, who did Superman. And he was talking about how he wormed his way into writing a script for some cheap crap movie company. And then they wanted him to direct this film or a show or whatever it was. But it was like one of those off-the-cuff places that he said, well, one of the first things I directed was a love scene between 2 women. And he was like, so I just did it. And I wrote the scene and helped write some of the script. And they paid me $150. And he's like, that's it, $150. But I got experience, and he's like, whatever. Brian Tong, great about Apple stories. He used to work at the Apple store that Steve Jobs went to. He lives in Cupertino when he was young. So when the Apple event, he's been invited. So he'll be there, and he stays at his parents' house and hangs out with the family. So that's cool. So I like Brian Tong, and I watch his videos on YouTube. Joe Rogan, you see a subject you're interested in, you just click on that for your podcast. Tons of tech stuff here to pick from. Interviews. All these guys do interviews with people. Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex Luthor in Smallville, he does tons of good interviews. And Katie Shakoff, who was Starbuck on Battlestar Galactica, she's starting to do interviews and do her own show. A lot of people are getting into that. And of course, you got Joe Rogan, Conan O'Brien. Cold Stone Steve Austin has a show. And I've got Star Talk in here, because he's technically interviewing people all the time. This guy's getting tons of people on YouTube. He's getting some big interviews. He does a good job. People seem to like talking to him. Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. So you can see the video version on YouTube, or you can listen to it. All these are Apple-based podcasts, different ones, from talking about Macs and AI, all this good stuff.
This is a reminder.
Reminder.
Water the plants outside.
That's me. Don't want to listen to that, do we? It's got news. You just got some quick news that I like to listen to if I'm just in a hurry, just a couple stories. I got Renee Ritchie as A26, but he hasn't done a video podcast lately. He's done a couple videos on YouTube. I like Renee. He got a job at YouTube. That's why he's not videoing and talking Apple products and doing a lot of that tech stuff anymore. I had a great motivation for me doing these YouTube videos and things was Renee Ritchie, because he played his first ever podcast that he was a part of, and he mumbled and he stumbled and barely talked, and it was, he was just trying to get his feet wet, and they invited him, come on, you can help us out, and he's like, and he didn't want to do it. And now he talks a mile a minute, super informed on everything, and the YouTube hired him. They're like, God, this guy's smart as hell. And he's going to be our liaison with YouTube creators and YouTube, so we can kind of, if there's a problem, Renee can help solve it and keep everybody happy. So that's his job. Here's some long episodes I put under morning back when I was working. Sometimes I'd drive the van and listen to podcasts. I had them in priority 1, priority 2. Maybe a lot of these are older. A priority. See the A again? Priority 3. Just stuff. 4. And there's more, of course. You get to have all episodes, which is great. You just still listen newest to oldest, because that way you can go to the very bottom, see how old some of this crap is, or if you're keeping something for some reason. Like the rest of the story from 2020 is Paul Harvey. I like Paul Harvey. I wanted to listen to one of those. This guy talks about, I think, how to doing a podcast. He's got all his episodes there from 2023. I haven't listened to it, but here's something introducing Strike Force 5 late night somethings. See, that's the problem I have, is it's hard to read when they cut off a lot of stuff. Like I've got short stories, radio shows, science, public broadcast, politics, secure, sci-fi, short stories. All these have short stories, but I wish they would have the author's name first so I could see Jack London wrote this. Wow, that'd be great to listen to. Whatever it is, I can listen to it. But see, now you get the name of it, and you've never heard of it because it's a short story, and you can't figure out who the person is unless you click on it and push information by Jake Stein and by Cal Coleman. Don't know who they are, but you can hit the little information button and see who wrote these things. But I'd like to see the author and then dash, this is the story, and then read by. And sometimes they're pushing the read by because that's the famous person, Like Silo's Harriet Walker here. And you're like, oh, so that gets your attention. You're like, well, she performs something hand. Silo's Harriet Walker performs Handsomest Drowned Man in the World by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So you're like, okay. Never heard of that. But if you like Silo and you wanted to listen to Harriet Walker from the show, right. So that's enough about podcasts. So like, share, and subscribe if you learned anything. Give me a thumbs up, Yeah, that's a like. All right. Have a good day. Bye.